Hello.
Yes, Roger's
Hi.
the first again.
Of course.
Dave was just telling me all about it.
Still
Oh dear.
And you're infamous, but you're a pirate apparently.
Yes.
He's infamous for many things.
Oh, hi, Julian.
Hi, Catrin.
You okay?
There we go.
Yeah, good, thanks.
He's even got his hat on, look.
I'll get me a hook if you like.
Brilliant.
Oh dear. How's it going, Dave?
All right. How's yourself?
No, not too bad. It's
Yeah.
absolutely clear here at the moment, which is not the forecast.
Yeah, it's sort of blue here, but lots of cloud and very windy. So yeah. How is everybody? How are folks?
Yeah, good.
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good. I'll move on to the other screen because I'm looking away from you. There you go. Good. Anybody got anything to tell us?
Ooh, there.
It's rained a lot. Does that count?
Windy.
Lot of
Stating
wind.
the obvious.
Wet and very windy.
Bound to. It's a bank holiday. Come on. What more do you expect for a bank holiday? For goodness
And definitely rain a lot here today.
Hello,
Me now.
Hello. Who's echoing? Somebody's echoing.
According
Was
to
that
my
me?
Echoing.
Hold on.
It sounds like it's Michael.
I don't know why, because I only just.
That's all right. I'll turn somebody off. It was, and
No?
it looks like it stopped. It's just picking up everybody's voice. And
I'm going to say I'm just using my laptop instead of my normal machine tonight. So
yeah, no, you're fine.
all right.
Sorry, Michael. Didn't recognise you with your haircut.
Yeah. Who is that guy?
Who's that handsome man?
I like the hippie.
I thought I'd choose Jupiter tonight, folks. So.
Well, welcome along, everybody. Good, got a good turnout again. Excellent. I'll pop you over there so I can go through my presentation. Okay, so the Padlet, some absolutely fantastic images on there. Roger and Sandy, marvellous capture of the moon rising above Glastonbury Tor. But I was a bit disappointed their pink and supermoon appeared in the descriptions. But, you can't have it all. You can't have it all.
Bar them.
But I didn't say pink supermoon.
Bet you thought
yes,
it though.
I did.
You thought it.
Oh dear.
No one will ever know if I think it.
I think there's certainly room later for you to tell us how you planned and carried that out, because that'd be great to know.
Well, you better ask Sandy then, because Roger just hung on to his coattails.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, cheeky monkey.
Yeah. All right, Sandy, we'll get you to. Are you in? Yeah.
Yes,
there.
I'm
yeah.
here.
So, we'll get you to describe how you did that a bit later. Perhaps that's the one for our party in a few weeks' time. The scribble pad, not much put on there, but somebody did put a comment on there anonymously about, can I set reminders on Zoom? Because they don't always know when it is. Unfortunately, I don't think you can do that, can you? Unless you're a member of a group, a business group or something built into Zoom, but I don't think you can set up reminders to remind people that they can link into. And unfortunately, of course, if I do have to change the password for any reason or the meeting, then obviously it will break that link anyway. So just keep, I do post it on social media, so just have a look out for that on there. But there's not really much been put on there for a few weeks now, so I might put that one to rest, I think. Anyway,
Dave, but I could actually set a schedule one up on the business version of Zoom just to remind people of what the date is.
Yeah, but they have to be a member of your business group, don't they?
No, I can do it as an. Not sure how I would sort that one. Yeah, no, okay.
Okay. Yeah, but
I can talk to you separately about it if it's something handy that it could do.
Okay, then, Chris.
Email on it.
Yeah, if we could perhaps have a link that people can say, let me know, then we can just automatically get the system to automatically send that out. That'd be good. But also, as well as social media, it's all on the Sky Diary as well. So star-gazing.co.uk/diary. And of course, there are 3 diaries. There's the blue one, which is all the events that are happening in the sky that might want to go out and have a look at. And then there's the red one, which is all the events that I know are happening that I find out about, and public availability. And then the black one is all anniversaries of space dates and all sorts of other things in there as well. So you can download the Team Up app and take that around with you. And thank you all for your generations. We've got a little bit in the pot, but we're getting a bit low now. But we got enough for the next few weeks, so we're okay as far as that's concerned. But of course, there are other meetings. So Pete's Astro Radio Reach Out and Touch Space is going on a Monday and Thursday, although he had a day off yesterday. Is he back? Is back on Thursday, Dave, or is it
Back on Monday?
Are we not on this Thursday coming?
No.
He had a meeting, didn't he?
Or is he doing a talk Thursday?
He said we're not. He said we're not doing this Monday or Thursday.
Right,
Yeah,
so,
he's doing a talk, I think, somewhere.
yeah, so it's back next week, isn't he?
Yeah, we've been given the week off, which is great.
We don't know what to do, so we've come here.
That's nowhere else to go. No one else will have us.
Well, there's so many of you.
Please, Dave, can we come into your show? Knock, knock.
Excellent. So that's Monday and Thursday evenings usually, although that'll be next week. So and they start at 8 in the evening. That's British summertime, of course. Sunday evenings, there's the Stargazers Lounge Stargazing as well. Again, they had a week off this week, and next meeting is next Sunday at 7:30. So go onto the Stargazers Lounge website for details on that. I'm not sure who they've got this coming week. And then, of course, there's Go Space Watch. Mike's in the audience, and he's got a meeting tomorrow evening. Is that right, Mike?
That is correct, Dave. Thank you.
There you go. Dr. Hannah Sargent's talking about mining the moon.
Yeah, spoke with her earlier today. Everything's on for that.
I don't think we should be encouraging mining on the moon as we're trying to stop it here, but there you go. Anyway, so
I don't think it'll be as much as what we mined here, though, Dave.
Fair enough. Okay. So that's that one. Anything else you want to add, Mike, before we move on?
I can just say that meeting at the end of the month is Robin Haig of Sky Aurora, and his talks is from Scotland to Space, one of the new UK launch companies that are coming online shortly. That's Wednesday, the 26th of May.
Okay. So go to the Go Space Watch website for more details of those. Okay, dokie. We've been invited to another couple of meetings. Clydesdale Astronomical Society has sent me details of their meeting. Professor Axel Hageman is talking about exploring blocks of ice and rocks. Why have I got Dob at the end of there? I don't know, but I have. All the details of these meetings are on the back website. And then on the same night, in bigger writing, because I'm hosting that, is the Northampton Natural History Society meeting, and they got what they call the telescopic topic. So it's just a nice general meeting. People are telling us all about what they've been up to. Nick, I saw him a little while ago. He's going to do about what's to see in the night sky or the daytime sky throughout the summer. Nick?
Yeah, we're talking about, I'll be talking about things to look forward to, and you're having a retro, and we're going to hear about the Arecibo problem from Jens Buss. So those of you interested in radio telescopes, famous radio telescopes that are sadly no more, then join us, feel free.
Yeah, so all the details on the back website, so come along and join us. Okay, then 18th of May, the next meeting, we've got Paul Money coming in to enthuse us all. He's going to be talking through the Stargate out as imaging with a go-to Dob. So he's going to show you what he's been able to do with his big Dob, basically. So that'll be good fun. And then on Tuesday, Phil's going to be talking about history of the space shuttle. Phil, are you in?
I am, yes.
Think I saw you. You want to add anything to that?
No, don't want to spoil anything at the moment.
Okay,
No.
Excellent. As you know, July and August, I'm having a rest for the summer. but we're back on the 28th of September. It's not a normal VAC evening, but it is a Tuesday. So mark 28th of September in your diary when we will be back. I haven't organised anything for that yet, but it's a little way ahead. So 15th of June is going to be the end of term party. So we need some ideas from you guys because I haven't had any yet.
Monopoly.
Monopoly.
How about some singing, Dave?
Yeah, we've had that one, yeah. So some singing, we could do that.
What about Kaplunk? A game of Kaplunk.
Why do I try?
About Virtual Twister.
Virtual Twister, yeah.
Dave, can I give the Coronian a plug for next week?
Of course you can, yeah.
Next Wednesday, a week tomorrow, is the Coronian meeting, which is available to everyone. And it's actually, if you're missing Pete, it's actually Pete Williamson doing Herschel to Hawkwind. So all the details will be on the Coronian website shortly, which is coronianastro.co.uk. And the link to the meeting will be on there as well. I should be doing that tomorrow.
Great. I'll try and remember to do that and get those details on the VAC webpage as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send you the details when I'm done, Dave.
Yeah. Okay. So, any ideas, then, folks? You've had a couple of minutes there to have a think.
A quiz. Surely a quiz.
Surely a quiz.
It's a done thing throughout the pandemic.
Quiz. So
drinking games, maybe, if you get the question wrong.
Drinking quiz.
There you go.
Okay.
Simon's good at quizzes. I missed his.
Sorry?
I'm not playing any drinking games with Kath around.
Dave, can I just mention a problem I've got?
Yes, John. Is that something you need to speak to Nick about, or?
That's good advice.
I've got an Apple computer.
Oh, dear. Never mind.
I use Yahoo Mail, and all of a sudden, I cannot open any attachments to any emails. Does anybody else have that problem?
No, I got it.
It keeps coming up with error 4008, and I can't find out what it is.
Well, I got an Apple computer, and it's no problem at all.
Right. Well, could be my computer's sort of 10 years old, so maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might be the old operating system. If it's the old operating system, it might not be supported.
Just a rotten apple.
Well, someone better.
An apple a day keeps.
I used to call them a dirty Mac, but there you go.
I used to use a Mac. I used to use a Mac, but I went back.
Yeah, I'm starting to think the same.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Macs at all.
I use two at a time.
I'm having to use one for work, and I've been using it since September, and I still hate it. But there you go. Anyway, carrying on. Okay, so don't forget, look out for another pop-up gastropub, because when I do get a minute, I will set one up. So keep an eye out for that as well. So I think anything else anybody would like to say? No? Okay. Right. Okay, so that brings us to tonight's meeting. Really, really pleased to welcome Catrin Raynor-Evans, who's going to talk all about exploring astronomy and space through Philately. So, Catrin, if you'd like to share your screen. If everybody else can mute themselves, I'll make sure you all are.
All right.
And then look forward to hearing your talk, Catrin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Certainly can.
And I'm just going to stop my video so I'm not looking at my face. Can you all see that?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And thank you so much for your generous donations. So, as you know, my name is Catrin, and tonight I will discuss what we can learn about astronomy and philately. And I'm going to show you some examples of what stamps exist globally celebrating the subject of astronomy. The talk's about 80 minutes long, so please, at the end, if you feel it is far too long and you want to give me some feedback, good or bad, then please just let me know. Okay, so this is a perfect example of an astronomy themed stamp here. It's one of my favorites, and it was issued by the United States Postal Service in 2017 to celebrate the total solar eclipse that was seen in the US. And it was the first total solar eclipse seen along a very narrow path across the US since 1918. It's actually one stamp. So the stamp is actually the image on the left, but the design is made of thermochromic ink, which means that when heat is applied to the stamp, the color changes. So here on the left, you can see the moon is obscuring the sun. You can see the sun's corona, the outermost part of the sun's atmosphere. And when heat is applied to the stamp by pressing a thumb or forefinger onto it, the full moon appears, as you can see here on the right. And this is actually a real photograph of a total solar eclipse, and it was taken in Libya in 2006. So the world of stamp collecting is a science and an art in itself, and there are so many facets of the subject. This is just a brief introduction. I could talk for a week, so I've just chosen some subjects that I hope will interest you all, get you excited, and give you a flavour of what it's all about and why I get so excited about it. Okay, so the talk, what can you expect? I'm just going to talk about what's so great about Philately. I'll give you a brief introduction to Philately because some of you may not actually know what that is. I will then talk about the world's first astronomy stamps and then the global spread of astronomy on stamps. I'll look at astronomy stamps issued in the UK, and then astronomy and Philately as a whole, which was split up into 4 sections. So the observers, the observables, the observations, and the explorers. Then there's one slide on the future of Philately, what can we look forward to? And then a slide on how to get started in collecting astronomy stamps. So if you are excited by the end of the talk, then you know where to go. So what's so great about stamps? Well, it's a really unusual and creative way of learning about history, geography, science, culture, politics, animals, comic books, and of course, astronomy and space. And there is literally a stamp for anything. So just to give you a few examples, we have a stamp here issued in Egypt in 1986, illustrating hieroglyphs. A set of 4 stamps were issued in the UK, celebrating the British weather in 2001. And there are even stamps with a dinosaur theme, a paleontology theme, and that has its own branch of Philately called Paleophilately. There's a stamp here, for example, issued in Switzerland, and this is celebrating chemistry. And like paleontology, it has its own branch of Philately called Chemophilately. And 4 stamps issued in the US in 2019, celebrating hip hop culture in the US. So I found this quote on the internet, which I thought really, summed up the hobby really well. Stamp collecting is so much more than a hobby, it's a lifestyle and a community. And it is a lifestyle for me now because, as you most of you know, I write about it a lot, I'm studying it, and the online community that I'm part of is absolutely brilliant. I've made some fantastic connections. And thanks to social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc., it's really enjoying a boom amongst younger people at the moment. So for example, here on the bottom left, this guy here, the punk philatelist, he blogs about stamps. He believes they are a vibrant expression of pop culture. This guy in the middle, Graham Beck, he is known as Exploring Stamps on social media, and he's got his own YouTube channel, exploring the world one stamp at a time. And my good mate, John Simper, who I think is on the call, Philately, he's very active on social media. He offers a monthly subscription via Patreon, I think it's called, where you can subscribe to his website, if you like, and he will send you monthly packs of stamps, first day covers, all sorts, depending on the payment. And yeah, for me, it's kind of a way of escaping and unplugging from the real world. And more importantly, it's a way for me to research and learn the subject of astronomy and space. And I love promoting both subjects through Philately. Okay, so a brief introduction to what Philately actually is. Another great example here of some stamps that are being issued this year in America, celebrating sun science. You can see there's 10 images, and they're celebrating the science behind NASA's ongoing exploration of our nearest star, and the images display common events on the sun, such as solar flares, sunspots, and coronal loops. Well, what is philately? Well, it's taken from the Greek root word of phil or phile, meaning an attraction or affinity to something, and atelia, meaning exempt from duties and taxes, to form the word philately. It's the study of postage stamps and postal history, and it also refers to the collection, appreciation, and research activities on stamps and other philatelic products, for example, Cinderella stamps. So here's a great example of what a Cinderella stamp is. Fantastic space theme. So Cinderella stamps, these are virtually anything resembling a postage stamp, but they're not actually issued for postal purposes by a government postal administration. So, for example, if you've had, at Christmas, you've had Scout Post through your letterbox, they've often got a stamp affixed to the envelope. Well, they're not actually a proper postage stamp, if you like, but they are a good example of a Cinderella stamp. And we have poster stamps, airmail, mail that's been flown in the air on aeroplanes, helicopters. We have sea mail, so mail that's been on boats, and of course, mail that's also been in space. And philately involves more than just stamp collecting or the study of postage. It can, it's possible to be a philatelist without owning any stamps. So, for instance, someone might be studying stamps that they're very rare and you can only see in a museum. And just a quickie, does anyone know what this stamp is? No, it's the 1 cent magenta, issued in British Guiana in 1856, and there's only one of its kind left. It's a very famous and rare stamp. It last sold at auction for $9.4 million, and it's up for auction again in Sotheby's on the 8th of June this year, and they're expecting to get $10 to $15 million for it. Okay, so the world's first stamps, just a quick slide on, giving a background on the postage stamp. So the penny black, I'm sure you've all heard of this, you've all seen it. It was the world's first adhesive postage stamp used in a public postal system. It was first issued in the United Kingdom on the 1st of May 1840. So why was an adhesive postage stamp produced? Well, prior to 1840, British postal rates were high and complex. So to simplify matters, Sir Rowland Hill proposed an adhesive stamp to indicate prepayment of the postage, because at the time it was normal for the recipient to pay the postage on delivery, which was charged by the sheet and on the distance travelled. Over 68 million stamps were produced, so it is a bit of a misconception that they are rare, because people think there aren't many left. Many were actually saved. You can buy them on eBay in used condition, depending on the postmark, if you can actually make out that it is a penny black, or depending which plate it was printed from. And there's only one known complete sheet of the penny black, which is in the British Postal Museum in London. Second British postal stamp, that was the penny red, issued in 1841. Next succeeded the penny black and continued as the main type of postage stamp in the UK until 1879. Does anyone know why the colour was changed from black to red? So this was because there was difficulty in seeing the cancellation mark on the penny black, which obviously, black ink used to cancel the penny black. Couldn't really see it, and the stamp was very easy to reuse. So obviously, if you're stamping black ink on a red background, you can see it more. So Brazil issued their first postage stamp in 1843, the same year as Switzerland, and the US issued their first postage stamps in 1847, depicting Franklin on the 5-cent stamp and Washington on the 10-cent stamp. So a lot of people have their reasons for collecting. Most people start off collecting and sorting out stamps by country or theme. You can buy packs of stamps online. You can go to W.H. Smith and buy them. But I think people soon realise that it's a hobby that can kind of quickly get out of control. It can seem really overwhelming. But once you realise what your main interest is, you can focus on that. So some people will collect stamps because of the postage gum. That can affect the value of the stamp, but it's also of interest to collectors because sometimes stamps are printed on the gum side by mistake. And you know, these are really sought after by collectors with an interest in uncommon varieties. Some people, believe it or not, will collect stamps because of the perforations. So as we know, that's a way of separating the stamps. And the standard for describing perforation is the number of holes or teeth in a 2 centimetre span. So for the stamp collector, perforations matter not only as a way to distinguish different stamps, but also as a part of the condition of the stamp. And in rare circumstances, a stamp may have different perforations on opposite sides. And some people will collect because of the paper it's printed on or the ink. So for example, these 6 stamps up here on the top right, they're all different colours, all different shades of blue. To you and I, they just look the same, but to the keen collector who focuses on ink, very different, you know, and they want them in their collection. And of course, rarity. So the bottom left here, we have the inverted Jenny, a 24-cent United States postage stamp, first issued in 1918. And you can see that the image of the Curtiss airplane in the centre of the design is printed upside down, and it's probably the most famous error in American philately, and only 1 pane of 100 of these stamps was ever found. So it's makes this error one of the most prized in all philately. And this is a great example here in the middle of an astronomical error, which was on a stamp issued in Czechoslovakia in 1967. So the image here, I've zoomed in, blown it up, and you can see that the engraver of the stamp has actually mixed up 2 letters of the alphabet so that the constellations Lepus and Lupus are transposed. So I think that's a really lovely example of an error on an astronomy stamp. And of course, people collect because of the theme, and that's what I collect, the theme of astronomy and space. It's not just about stamps. So you may remember when I explained what philately is, I mentioned other philatelic material, so that it's not just the stamp that is of interest to collectors. Philatelists like to collect first day covers. So this is a postage stamp on a postal card or a stamped envelope, which is franked on the first day the stamp is authorised for use. So the stamps are affixed to specially designed envelopes, often with the design of the theme that is being celebrated. So here we have a lovely example from Canada, issued in 2018, celebrating the 150th anniversary of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. So you can see there's 2 stamps there, Milky Way and Aurora Borealis, which are affixed to an envelope. And I love this example, beautiful cover issued in the UK in 2002, I think that was, by a company called Benham. So it's a really decorative envelope, and the stamps again on the envelope, and they've been postmarked as well with a really fancy ink stamp. So a lot of people will also focus their attention on postal history. I mentioned it earlier. Some people only collect items that have been flown in space. And with the growing global celebration of space and astronomy through philately, some covers made it beyond our atmosphere aboard shuttles, Apollo missions. This is called astrophilately. And the Apollo 15 postal cover incident, for example, is notorious amongst astrophilatelists. So unknown to NASA, the crew of Apollo 15, that was Al Worden, David R. Scott, and James B. Irwin, agreed to carry 400 unauthorized postmark covers aboard the spacecraft and subsequently onto the surface of the moon. And upon the astronauts' return, the covers were postmarked again aboard the recovery ship Okinawa, and Hermann Seeger, the German stamp dealer involved in the plan, sold some of these covers for prices in the thousands. And when the news of the flown covers reached NASA, the astronauts were reprimanded and forbidden to fly in space again. So if you ever see anything like this in a antiques market or a charity shop for a couple of quid, buy it because it's worth an absolute fortune. And presentation packs, just a quickie. I wanted to get this in there because I think these are fantastic. So this is the classic science fiction stamps that were issued last month by the Royal Mail. And presentation packs, they typically contain a full set of the new stamp issues, and it comprises a folded card containing detailed notes about the stamps, and a card with the clear strips for holding the stamps in, and they're all held together in a clear sleeve. And the bottom right here, you can see this is the back and front of the card inlay, if you like, which gives you a lot of information about these stamps. And I think presentation packs are a really great example of how you can learn from stamps and philately without actually opening a book or even going on the internet. You know, you can learn a lot of information, get a lot of information from these packs. Okay, so the cancellations or hand stamps alone are of interest to some collectors, and for astronomy philatelists, there are some wonderful hand stamps available. They're just simply ink stamps used to cancel the stamp, so they can't be reused, and they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, pictures and ink colour. They're really imaginative and eye-catching, and they form an important part of the cover. So the stamps on the covers, they can be cancelled with the usual first day of issue date stamp at a post office, but often people will send the covers away to a special hand stamp centre to have the stamps cancelled with a special pictorial design adding to the theme of the cover. So they're often stamped with a picture and the location of something or someone relevant to the stamps. And sometimes, so for example, Dave, because you mentioned Star Wars earlier, the Royal Mail issued Star Wars stamps. I can't remember what year that was, 2015 maybe. And with that issue of the stamps, there was about 40 pictorial hand stamps that you could choose from to have your stamps cancelled with. And yeah, this has its own heading, if you like, under philately. It's called Markophily. It's the main interest of the philatelists, where they just want to study and collect postmarks, cancellations. So they're more interested in the details, the style, and the design of the markings. So top right, just to give you a few examples, pictorial hand stamp that was issued for the space science stamps that were issued in 2012. And the bottom right here, I love this postmark that was produced in 2019 to commemorate the 50th anniversary of man landing on the moon. And of course, you can see it's stamped at Washington. But not all cancellations are relevant to a set of stamps that have been issued, for example. So sometimes postal authorities will just produce postmarks. So here, for example, we have a brilliant cancellation commemorating Comet Bennett in 1970, and it's perihelion on the 20th of March 1970. And on the left-hand side, we have a postmark produced to celebrate InSight, the robotic lander landing on Mars, and that was issued in 2018. So you can see a perfect example, really, that the stamp affixed to the envelope on the bottom left has absolutely nothing to do with space. It was just a postmark. So the guy who sent this to me, he obviously just posted the envelope to the postal service to get the postmark on the envelope. Can you sign my cover, please? Is something that I say a lot to people. Autographs from eminent scientists and astronomers can form a really special part of a collection. And I have autographs, ranging from Dr. Alan Chapman, Ian Ridpath, Jim Al-Khalili. There's Ian there on the left. I met him at Cardiff Astronomy Society, and he signed my Halley's Comet cover. Recently, Pete Lawrence and Chris Lintott signed my 2007 Sky at Night cover. And Dame Jocelyn Bell Burnell, I sent this off to her, the Visions of the Universe cover, which she kindly signed. Getting an autograph on a cover, if this is what you're into, it can increase the value if you wanted to sell it on. But for me, it's just something that I like to keep in my folders and look at. And this cover here shows an envelope celebrating John Glenn, the first American in space. I'm not sure if this is an authentic handwritten signature. It could be an auto pen. And an auto pen is a device used for the automatic signing of a signature autograph, and they're often used when celebrity or famous people get hundreds of letters each day. So during, Mercury, Gemini, Apollo missions, as they became more and more popular, obviously the astronauts couldn't spend the time signing the covers, so a lot of these autographs on covers will be auto pen. Okay, so it all comes together, the who, the what, and the why. Who cares? What's so great about all of this? Well, the stamps, the postmark, and the cachet, which is the illustration on the left-hand side of the envelope, on a first day cover can unravel a factual account about an astronomical event. So, for example, here, the centenary of general relativity. So here we have the cover, the envelope, we've got the stamps affixed to the cover. You can see it's been signed. There's 2 postmarks cancelling the stamps, and there's an illustrative cachet on the left-hand side. So each stamp is showcasing the work of Einstein and Hawking. Of course, you can see we've got Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, gravitational waves, Hawking radiation, 2 black holes colliding, and a black hole. And you can see here the silver postmark, which was used to cancel the stamps on the 1st of July, 2016, which is the date the stamps were issued. And the cachet tells us what the stamps are celebrating. So that's 100 years of general relativity. And it also tells us that they were launched at Starmus 2016, which is an international festival focused on celebrating astronomy. And the cover's been signed. It's been autographed by Professor Kip Thorne and Professor Bernard Schutz, and I had the pleasure of meeting Kip Thorne a few years ago at Cardiff University when he came to open up a new lab there, and he gave a lecture. And Bernard Schutz, I interviewed him for the Royal Astronomical Society journal, and Kip Thorne was actually his PhD supervisor, and they've remained good friends. So yeah, so I think this is a great example of what philately can teach someone about astronomy. So if I was to pass this cover over to a budding astronomer, or even a philatelist, so someone who knew little about general relativity or cosmology, they could take this away and do hours of research looking at the details on the stamps. Who's Kip Thorne, who's Bernard Schutz, what's general relativity, what's a gravitational wave. So I think this is just a brilliant example of stamps teaching. And I just wanted to focus in on these stamps because I think they're absolutely fantastic. I just think they're very beautiful, and like I said, you can learn a lot about gravitational waves, general relativity, etc. from them. So the images are printed on iridescent foil, which makes them really unique and eye-catching. And I had great fun myself researching these stamps, delving deep in, finding out what the words and the diagrams meant. So here we have Albert Einstein and his famous E=mc² equation, Stephen Hawking and the Birkenstein-Hawking equation, the famous trousers diagram on the right-hand side, which represents 2 black holes colliding. Bottom left, a diagram of Hawking radiation, and this diagram is actually based on a blackboard sketch that was sent to the designers of the stamps from Cambridge University. And in the middle, a diagram of a black hole, and of course on the right hand side, gravitational waves. So you know about the world's first stamps and what philately is, but you're probably and hopefully all wondering what the first astronomy stamp was. Well, the first astronomy themed stamp dates to 1887, when Brazil issued a perforated stamp. It's buff and blue in colour and depicts Crux Australis, the Southern Cross, which is an asterism of the constellation Crux seen in the southern hemisphere. And here it is. It's quite an underwhelming stamp, but also very cool because it's the first astronomy stamp. The asterism is astronomically accurate on the stamp, with acrux and gacrux pointing the way to the south celestial pole, and it's illustrated as if the observer were looking up to the sky from Earth. And the stars are a really symbolic part of the Brazilian flag as well. They appear on the flag, a lot of them do, and they represent the constellations in the southern hemisphere and show how they were seen from Rio de Janeiro during the early hours of the morning on November the 15th, 1889, the day the country shifted from an empire to a republic. So you can see that the Southern Cross constellation, or asterism, sorry, is a really important part of the history and culture. So it's understandable that it would feature heavily on stamps. And as you will see over the next few slides, the Southern Cross was a favourite to print on Brazilian stamps for almost 10 years, with the colour and size of the stamp evolving over that time. I'll just have a quick drink. So the second astronomy stamp issued in Brazil again 3 years later. So the image on the top right, in 1890, Brazil issued a further series of these perforated postage stamps featuring the Southern Cross, this time in a variety of colours and values. And the asterism featured for a second time in 1890, which is the image on the bottom left, but this time on perforated newspaper stamps. So these are stamps that were used to pay for the cost of mailing newspapers or periodicals. But you can see for this design, it has changed quite a bit. I'm hoping that you can see that the asterism is illustrated shining above the Sugarloaf Mountain. You can just see the Sugarloaf under the writing. Obviously, Sugarloaf, Brazil's world famous landmark. And this design was issued again in 1898, which you can see on the bottom right image. And the post office reissued the stamps as newspaper surcharge stamps, and they were overprinted with the year and stamp value. So the term surcharge in Philately just describes any type of overprint that alters the price of a stamp, and surcharges can raise or lower the face value of existing stamps when prices have changed too quickly to produce an appropriate new issue, or simply just to use up existing stocks. A star appears. The first stamp depicting a planet was issued in 1894. Brazil again. Venus, the morning star, appeared on a set of stamps issued in Brazil in 1894, and yeah, it's the first stamp illustrating a planet. So these stamps are known as Madrugada Republicana, the Republican Dawn, and they commemorate the beginning of the Republican period. On the 15th of November 1889, a group of military officers known as Republican Dawn overthrew Emperor Dom Pedro II, with the fall of the monarchy taking place around 8 o'clock that day. And research of astronomical charts has shown that Venus was visible in the morning sky at the time of the fall of the monarchy, affirming then that the bright star on the stamp is undoubtedly Venus. So the Southern Cross in reverse. Jumping ahead now to the 20th of June 1930, the 4th Pan American Congress of Architects was held in Rio de Janeiro. And to commemorate this event, 3 stamps were issued, including this red stamp here, illustrating the Southern Cross above the Sugarloaf again, with the addition of 2 columns or an architrave in the foreground. If you compare this image to previous stamps that were issued in Brazil, you'll notice that the asterism is a mirror image of its true self. Why is that? Well, perhaps it was illustrated as if the observer were looking down on the celestial sphere from above, as sailors and astronomers would have done when using an armillary sphere or astrolabe for navigation. And if you're unfamiliar with an armillary sphere, then here's one here on a stamp that was issued in 1985 in Nicaragua, which was commemorating the return of Halley's Comet. And after all, the Southern Cross is depicted in reverse on the flag, and an astrolabe featured on the Empire of Brazil flag, again tying in with Brazil's nautical history. I'm not entirely sure why they decided at this stage to show the asterism as a mirror image, but it's something I'm still looking into, so if anyone knows, let me know. So the astronomical theme slowly spread to other countries. Here in 1930, Italy issued this blue stamp, obviously depicting planes, and again you can see the Southern Cross is in the background. In 1941, Norway issued this stamp, illustrating fishing boats and the aurora. In 1949, Japan issued this stamp celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Mizusawa Latitude Observatory. And Ecuador in 1949 illustrated the equatorial line monument, which marks the position of the equator on a stamp. In 2009, San Marino issued a stamp to celebrate the International Year of Astronomy. And space exploration featured on a stamp in Poland in 1970. And in 1981, America issued a stamp depicting the Hubble Space Telescope. So while countries all over the world, from Colombia, Nigeria, Japan, Russia, were celebrating astronomy and humankind's achievement in space, the UK didn't start commemorating astronomy and space until much later. So we issued our first stamp in 1966, and it depicted a radio telescope at Jodrell Bank. Bright yellow in colour, cost 4 pennies, and the stamp was issued with a set of 4, with each image celebrating a different aspect of British technology. In 1970, the Royal Mail issued a stamp commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Royal Astronomical Society. It was issued within a set of 5 stamps celebrating anniversaries in the UK. It's pink in colour. The stamp depicts William Herschel, so he was the first president of the Royal Astronomical Society, and in the image you can see he's holding a sketch of Uranus, which he discovered in 1781. We have Francis Bailey in the middle of Bailey's beads fame, which he explained in 1836 after viewing a total solar eclipse. And then we have John Herschel, son of William Herschel, who was famous for many things, including discovering 7 moons of Jupiter. And in the background here, we have Herschel's 40-foot telescope, which William Herschel built in his garden in Slough between 1785 and 1789. So so that was just another great example of, it's a very small piece of paper. You can glean a lot of information from it. You'd want to go away, hopefully, to look up who are they, what's Herschel holding, what's the Royal Astronomical Society, how do you construct a 40-foot telescope. So yeah, really interesting stamp. And I've just chosen 5 examples of astronomy stamps issued in the UK over recent years. In 2002, the Royal Mail issued a miniature sheet of stamps celebrating British astronomy. So whilst the pictures are very attractive, unfortunately, there seems to be a lack of connection to British astronomy and astronomers, because all the images here were actually taken using the Hubble Space Telescope. In 1768, James Cook boarded the ship Endeavour in Plymouth and sailed to Tahiti. And taking around 8 months, the purpose of the trip was to view the transit of Venus with the aim to gather astronomical information to measure the solar system. The Royal Mail issued a set of 6 stamps in 2018 commemorating the 250th anniversary of the voyage. And during the expedition, James Cook and Charles Green made drawings during the observations of the transit. And these have been used on a first-class stamp called the Endeavour Voyage, which you can see here, and superimposed onto an image of the sun. And one of the most interesting details of the drawings is the black drop effect that they observed during the transit, which you can clearly see on the stamp, which is this one here. And the stamp also illustrates a sextant, which was used for navigation purposes during the voyage. One of the Millennium Project's commemorated on stamps was the National Space Centre at Leicester. The centre, which has a particularly distinctive space-age building, wasn't finished, unfortunately, at the time the stamp was issued in 2000. So the Royal Mail just issued it with a generic image of the night sky. In 1987, again, the Royal Mail issued 4 stamps marking the 300th anniversary of Isaac Newton's Principia. And despite the small size, the stamps are bursting with information about Newton's accomplishments. So, for example, the 34-pence stamp portrays a satellite along with Newton's insights on projectile motion and orbits. The 22-pence stamp honours his study of planetary motion through the depiction of 6 planets orbiting the sun, on top of which is an impressive coronal loop. And the 50th anniversary of Patrick Moore's BBC TV programme, The Sky at Night, was commemorated by a set of 6 colourful and attractive stamps released in 2007. The designs show, for example, the Cat's Eye Nebula, the Saturn Nebula, and the Helix Nebula, and superimposed on each image is an outline of the home constellation with the location of the object mark. And all of the objects are identified with a number beginning with the letter C, which is a reference in Patrick's own brand Caldwell catalogue, his full surname being Caldwell Moore. I found this really fun fact out recently, and I'm writing an article about it for a book. So just a quickie, it's just a really unusual example of philately and astronomy coming together. So German telescope makers have been known to use postage stamps to separate the objective lenses and apochromatic telescopes. and the use of the stamp replaced the need to use mucilage on paper or tin foil. So yeah, it's really interesting, something I didn't know about, and yeah, I'm looking forward to delving further into that subject in the future. So I hope everyone's still with me. I'm halfway. I'll try and hurry up. Okay, so astronomy and philately, you've probably already noticed that everything from astronomers to telescopes to constellations, they all appear on stamps, and I've given you a real mishmash of examples. And there isn't much point in collecting stamps if you aren't going to learn something from them. So whether that's nature, sports, books, anything, that floats your boat about stamp collecting. If you aren't going to learn from them, then, what's the point in collecting? So this is why I love astronomy stamps so much, because I'm always learning. And this lady, Margaret Morris, amazing lady, she's 90 this year. She's won a lot of awards for her contributions to philately, and she wrote this paper back in 2013 called Astronomy and Philately, where she discussed the two subjects. So she grouped her collection to 3 main groups, and I think this is a really useful way of organising a philately collection within the subjects of astronomy. So I'm just going to give you a few examples under each section to illustrate what subjects we can learn in astronomy from philately in an organised and logical way. And I've added my own 4th heading because the topic didn't quite fit into any of the 3 she's mentioned. So we have the observers. So I'm just going to give you some examples of astronomers on stamps and astronomical anniversaries, such as the Royal Astronomical Society. And then we have the observables, so our solar system, and I'll briefly give you a few examples of comets on stamps because everyone loves comets. The observations, so how were the observers looking at the observables. So I'll just have a brief slide on astronomical instruments. And my 4th heading is on the explorers. So that's human exploration and achievement. So I'm looking at the space race and moon landing. So the observers. Astronomy, it's one of the oldest natural sciences, and this subject has been celebrated on stamps all over the world. Astronomy dates back to the 4th millennium BC. Babylonian astronomers were skilled observers and mathematicians, and they studied the sky and devoted their time to studying the planetary movements and adopted the use of the zodiacal belt. And they also recorded observations of comets and eclipses, and these studies were recorded on cuneiform clay tablets. And this stamp issued in Austria in 1965 depicts a cuneiform clay tablet. And these tablets show a really good understanding of arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. And by the 3rd millennium BC, Egyptians had already adopted a 365-day year, and annual flooding of the Nile was determined observing the stars. This rather lovely stamp, which was issued in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1964, depicts Hathor. And according to ancient myths, Hathor was a sky goddess known as Lady of Stars and Sovereign of Stars, and was linked to Sirius. And she was originally a personification of the Milky Way, which is considered to be the milk that flowed from the udders of a heavenly cow. And China and the Chinese, they've had a very long history of astronomy, dating back to the 2nd millennium BC. And in a 2nd century tomb, a silk roll was found which depicts comets and is considered the first atlas of comets. And this stamp here, bottom left, which was issued in China in 1986, commemorates the return of Halley's Comet. And you can see that images on the stamp echo images that feature on the scroll. So observations of celestial bodies and scientific discoveries have shaped our way of thinking about our place in the universe. So just jumping ahead now from the ancient observers to the scientists and astronomers who changed our view of our place in the universe over the last few centuries. Copernicus, really popular astronomer to feature on stamps. He was from Poland, and he proposed that the planets have the sun as the fixed point to which their motions are to be referred, and featured on a Polish stamp in 1942. And here he is again, issued or featuring on a stamp issued in Hungary in 1973 to commemorate 500 years since his birth. And the image on the left-hand side, well, it's another great example of a Cinderella stamp. You can't use it to post. And I do really love the design of the planets orbiting the sun. Tycho Brahe, Danish nobleman, astronomer, and writer known for his accurate and comprehensive astronomical observations. I'm sure many of you know he was a real character, and he had a false nose, which was made of brass, which he had lost during a sword fight. And he formed his own system, the Tychonic system, and his system correctly saw the moon as orbiting Earth and the planets as orbiting the sun, but erroneously considered the sun to be orbiting the Earth. Johann Kepler was Tycho's assistant, and Kepler was a convinced Copernican and considered Tycho's model to be mistaken. And he is also, of course, famous for his laws of planetary motion, and he was commemorated on a stamp here in the Czech Republic in 2009. The father of astronomy, Galileo, astronomer, engineer, physicist, and he is famous for his use of the telescope in making celestial observations. He observed the phases of Venus and the 4 largest satellites of Jupiter. And whilst he wasn't the first person to observe the moon, he made topographical charts estimating the heights of the mountains on the lunar surface. And here he featured on a stamp issued in the Ascension Islands in 1971. And Sir Isaac Newton, he's recognised as one of the greatest mathematicians and scientists of all time. Born in England, he formulated the laws of motion and made seminal contributions to optics. And here he is celebrated on a stamp in 1987 in Grenada, and he's illustrated holding the apple that was said to give him his inspiration to formulate the theory of gravity. So a commemorative stamp issued in 1970, celebrating the 150th anniversary of the Royal Astronomical Society. You've already seen that on a previous slide. Last year, 2020, the Royal Mail issued a set of stamps to commemorate the bicentenary of the Royal Astronomical Society. The society was formed in 1820, and it's now grown to over 4,000 members. So this stamp issue you can see around the border of the slide, called Visions of the Universe, 8 stamps in total, illustrating astronomical phenomena. So we've got Comet 67P, the Cat's Eye Nebula, pulsars, Jupiter's auroras, gravitational lensing, and each stamp includes one simple line of text that describes phenomena which has been discovered or investigated by British astronomers and astrophysicists. So for example, the first class black hole stamp on the left-hand side displays the text "Black holes are superdense regions of space," which is a nod to the English natural philosopher John Michell, who first suggested their existence in 1783, and the late famous British professor and theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking. So these images were illustrated by a London-based artist called Robert Ball, and the stamps are really colourful, and they bring to life these amazing astronomical phenomena in a way that photographs certainly could not. So again, in particular, the black hole stamp on the left-hand side, this is actually based on the work of Dr. Ziri Younsi of University College London, who was part of the Event Horizon telescope team that captured the groundbreaking first image of a black hole in 2019. And he shared computer models of his work on black holes with Robert Ball, the artist, to inform the illustrated design. So yeah, I think these stamps are a really, fitting celebration for such a prestigious society. And just a quickie, just to give you an example of a first day cover. So we have the Visions of the Universe stamps affixed to the first day cover, and obviously the photograph of Stephen Hawking, which contains a special commemorative 50p coin, which was minted in 2019 as part of the Royal Mint's Innovators in Science series and celebrates Hawking's life. And for this issue of the stamps, some special hand stamps were issued, including the original logo of the Royal Astronomical Society, depicting Herschel's 40-foot telescope and an image of a black hole top left. So the observables, what have people been looking at? Well, our solar system is home to the sun, 8 planets and fascinating astronomical objects, including comets, asteroids, and dwarf planets. And on the 16th of October in 2012, the Royal Mail celebrated the 50th anniversary of the first British satellite, Ariel 1. And images of our incredible solar system featured on 6 detailed stamps. And using imagery taken from various probes, colour and imagination were brought to life, giving us armchair astronomers a close-up view of these mysterious worlds. And each image, which was on the stamps, has a relationship with the UK's involvement in astronomy. So here we have the sun, center of our solar system, and it featured on a first class stamp. And the fiery orange image that you can see was photographed by the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, which is a joint project between the European Space Agency and NASA. And the spacecraft continues to make observations of the sun's chromosphere, atmosphere, and corona, despite it initially only being a 2-year mission. And planets featuring on the stamp set include Venus and Mars. They're our nearest neighbours, and the images chosen on the first class and 77p stamps are great examples of how beautiful these planets are. So the exploration of Venus and Mars have strong UK connections. The Venus Express mission was proposed by scientists at Oxford University, and the image taken by ESA's Mars Express probe was the first European mission to Mars, with the UK having involvement in 3 of the 6 onboard instruments. Earth featured on its own stamp in 1984 when the Royal Mail commemorated the 100-year anniversary of the adoption of the Greenwich Meridian, the world's prime meridian. And the image chosen on the 16p stamp is that of Earth as seen from Apollo 11, and you can see there's a curved red line of 0 longitude superimposed on top. I'm sure many of us will remember the total solar eclipse of 1999. 7 stamps were issued that year by the Guernsey Post Office to commemorate the eclipse. And these are a fantastic set, kind of, taking the collector or the astronomer through the stages of the eclipse. So we have the early stages, we have totality, you can see Bailey's beads, the diamond ring effect, and only 6 of these stamps, I say only 6 of these stamps hold a value, and they can be used for postage, but the stamp on the end, for some reason, has no value, and again is classed as a Cinderella stamp. But I don't know why that doesn't have value. Everyone's favourite object to view in the night sky, comets. So they've been the cause of fascination and fear for centuries, and they originate from the cold, dark outer regions of the solar system. They're composed of ice and rock, and some examples of comets have appeared on stamps here. So, for example, on this miniature sheet that was issued in India in 2018. They originate from 2 locations, the Kuiper Belt and the Oort Clouds. And yeah, they've appeared a lot on stamps. So here we have, I'm not sure which comet this is supposed to be, if it's just an illustration of a comet issued in Finland. And here we have Comet West and Comet Ikea-Seki featured on stamps in the Congo, and they were issued in 1986. Halley's Comet, named after the famous astronomer Edmund Halley, is perhaps the most famous short period comet in our history due to its return period of 76 years. So some of us may see it twice in our lifetime. The comet has been recorded as far back as 240 BC in China, and it even featured on the world famous Bayeux Tapestry. And the souvenir stamp sheet that you can see here, which was issued in Bolivia in 1986, features scene 32 from the Bayeux Tapestry, and the comet can clearly be seen on the upper border. So the appearance of Halley's Comet in 1985 was celebrated globally on stamps, and here in the UK, the Royal Mail issued a fantastic set of 4 stamps in 1986, which were illustrated by the famous cartoonist Ralph Steadman. Stamps are, really colourful, quite funny. You can see a rather disgruntled looking Halley down here. We have an image of 2 comets on the left, representing that you may see it twice in a lifetime. We've got Giotto and the comet orbiting the sun on the other 2 stamps. And a set of first day covers that I really enjoy collecting have been produced by the presentation Philatelic Services in London between 1984 and 1995, I think it is. So with each cover, it comes with a card inlay, and it explains that each issue depicts a fine art painting or other collectible which has been auctioned by Sotheby's of London. So for example here, this is a really nice silk cachet image, and the image is that of a portable refracting telescope, which was manufactured by Peter Dolland, a well-known maker of optical instruments. And the telescope actually sold at Sotheby's in 1985 for £22,000. More comets. Hale-Bopp. It's 26 years this year that we saw it. It moved across our skies for approximately 18 months. It was brilliant, and it was the most observed comet of the 20th century, although I'm not sure now if NEOWISE may have stolen that title. And it was discovered independently by Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp in the US in 1995, and the comet passed perihelion, so the closest point to the sun, on the 1st of April 1997, and even in light polluted towns and cities it was visible to the naked eye. So as far as I'm aware, very few stamps were issued to celebrate this exciting event, but the Dominican Republic celebrated it in 1997. Depicts the comet positioned against a tropical pink and yellow sky, and you can see the two tails of gas and dust clearly illustrated in both stamps. So in my collection, I have this custom cover which commemorates the comet. It was sent to me by a former NASA employee who specialized in making his own covers. You can see the cover is postmarked at Cloudcroft, New Mexico on the 24th of March, 1997, which was 2 days after the comet made its closest approach to Earth. And Cloudcroft is the location where Alan Hale first made the discovery. And the image on the cover illustrates the position of the comet in the night sky from the date its discovery to the date it was last observed in the southern hemisphere. And we were all very excited last year with the appearance of NEOWISE. There were no stamps issued to celebrate that, but again, another custom cover I have in my collection. It depicts, well, you can see it's got an image of NEOWISE. It was first discovered on the 27th of March 2020 by the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, and the comet's closest approach to Earth was on the 23rd of July. Again, it could be easily seen with the naked eye, and you can see on the cover the date stamp is the 29th of March 2020, and it's been date stamped at Pasadena, California, which is home to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Okay, so the observations. How have people been observing all these amazing objects in the night sky? The tools, if you like. So for thousands of years, our ancestors looked to the sky. They've observed, named the stars and constellations after animals, objects, and mythological creatures. And they would worship the solstices and watch the planets traversing across the sky. All of these early attempts at recording and understanding the sky have been found on the design of stamps. So here we have two stamps depicting Stonehenge in Wiltshire, which has long been studied for its possible connections with ancient astronomy. And the site is aligned in the direction of the sunrise of the summer solstice and the sunset of the winter solstice. And archaeoastronomers have made a range of further claims about the site's connection to astronomy, its meaning and its use. And it's appeared twice on stamps issued in the UK, once in 1990, celebrating the subject of astronomy, so the image on the left. And you can see it's got quite a lot of detail actually. You've got the phases of the moon. There's a gyroscope on the left-hand side, Stonehenge in the middle, and a ship navigating the stars. I think that's supposed to be the North Pole. And Stonehenge appeared again in 2005 on a stamp set celebrating World Heritage Sites. And the Nebra Sky Disk, a bronze disc, blue and golden colour. It was found in Germany in 1999 by metal detectorists. The symbols on the disc are interpreted generally as the sun or full moon, a lunar crescent and stars, and including a cluster of 7 stars, interpreted as the Pleiades, and 2 golden arcs along the sides interpreted to mark the angle between the solstices were added later. A final addition was another arc at the bottom, surrounded with multiple strokes of uncertain meaning, not entirely sure what they are, possibly a solar barge with numerous oars, a Milky Way or a rainbow. An archaeologist placed its origins in the 1st millennium BCE, and the disc may be an astronomical instrument, and it featured on a postage stamp in Germany in 2008 celebrating German archaeology. And other astronomical instruments that have been attributed to watching and recording our skies include the astrolabe, the armillary sphere, and perhaps the most important of all is the telescope. And this is a stamp that was issued in Sierra Leone commemorating the 450th anniversary of Copernicus' death. So telescopes are often housed in observatories. In 1921, the first stamp depicting an observatory was issued in central Lithuania. It was produced in two forms. You can see it top left, perforate and imperforate. And the image on the stamps displays the Puxlebut Observatory, which was named after the astronomer Martin Puxlebut, who was famous for his observational work and for computing the orbit of Mercury. The observatory theme continued. In 1948, the US printed their first astronomy-themed 3-cent stamp with an image of the Paloma Mountain Observatory, and the stamp was issued to commemorate the observatory's opening. The observatory houses the Hale telescope, a 200-inch telescope named after George Hale, and he was a famous American solar astronomer well known for his work on the discovery of magnetic fields and sunspots. So a lot of groundbreaking astronomical observations have been made using this telescope, including the discovery of 2 additional moons belonging to Uranus, the identification of clouds within Neptune's atmosphere, and more recently, the spectral observation of the Oumuamua asteroid. Excuse my pronunciation. Okay, in the last section, the explorers. So from July 1957 to December 1958, scientists from 67 countries participated in various earth science projects as part of the International Geophysical Year. And to mark this occasion, the US Post Office issued a stamp featuring a striking image of the sun, which was in the most active phase of its 11-year cycle. So the cycle 19, the 19th solar cycle since 1755, and also depicted as a section of Michelangelo's famous Sistine Chapel painting, The Creation of Adam, which was a nod to our natural curiosity and desire to understand our place in the universe. So the International Geophysical Year came at a time when the Soviet Union and the US were locked in a heated race to be the first nation to go to space. And the Soviet Union succeeded on the 4th of October 1957, when Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, was launched into low Earth orbit. Sputnik was no bigger than a basketball, and it was equipped with 2 antennae to broadcast radio pulses back to Earth. The Soviet Union issued the first Sputnik stamp on the 4th of November 1957, the 40 kopeck perforated stamp. It's a very simple design, blue and grey in colour, and illustrates the satellite orbiting the Earth. And the launch of Sputnik has been celebrated globally on stamps including Romania, Cuba and Korea. And after the successful launch of Laika the Space Dog aboard Sputnik 2 on the 3rd of November 1957, there she is on a stamp, a further triumph came for the USSR in 1961 when Yuri Gagarin was launched aboard Vostok 1 and orbited the Earth for 108 minutes. And not one to shy away from celebrating their achievements through Philately, a plethora of stamps from the Soviet Union commemorating this momentous event exists, including this rather wonderful 10 kopeck stamp, which I think is a really great example of Soviet space propaganda, and it illustrates Gagarin looking to the stars as Vostok 1 shoots off into the sky above a silhouetted skyline. So whilst the Soviet Union blazed a trail into space, the USA was successful in their own firsts, and on the 20th of July 1969, the crew of Apollo 11 were the first to land on the moon in their lunar module, the Eagle. And needless to say, there was a huge explosion in the issue of stamps and memorabilia celebrating this milestone. And this single 10-cent stamp, issued in September, designed by Paul Corley, was issued to celebrate this historic visit to our celestial neighbour, and it illustrates Neil Armstrong setting foot on the moon, embarking from Eagle. And really interestingly, the engraving plate, so the plate that was used to make the stamp with a design, it was carried to the surface of the moon by the Apollo 11 astronauts, and it now resides in the National Postal Museum in Washington, D.C. But you might be wondering who Paul Corley is. Well, he was one of the first 8 artists chosen by NASA in 1962 to document the American space program's Project Mercury. He has an amazing space art career spanning more than 40 years, and he's covered Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Space Shuttle missions. And he was the only artist present with the Apollo 11 crew of Neil Armstrong, Aldrin, and Michael Collins on the morning of July 16, 1969, as they prepared for the historic launch to the moon. In 1989, for the 20th anniversary of the moon landing, the Postal Service asked Paul's son, Chris, to design this $2.40 priority mail stamp, and Paul to design a first day cover. And I'm very lucky to have this in my collection, which has been signed by them both. And in 1994, For the 25th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, Paul and Chris jointly designed these two lovely US stamps commemorating the event. So a 29-cent commemorative stamp and a $9.95 express mail stamp. So just the last few slides. For the past couple of years have been no exception to the issue of Apollo 11. And to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, the US issued 2 vertical forever stamps on the 20th of July 2019. It's a really simple design. The images that depict the iconic photograph of Buzz Aldrin taken by Neil Armstrong and the Apollo 11 landing site on the moon, the Sea of Tranquility, which you can see there marked with a dot. And the Isle of Man post office have kept the Apollo theme going over the past couple of years with some beautiful stamps. And in 2019, they released a set of 8 fantastic stamps to commemorate the 50th anniversary. And this set of stamps, the One Small Step, explores 50 years of lunar exploration, and it tells the story of the first 12 Apollo missions. And they depict famous images, including mission control at NASA, the famous photograph Earthrise taken by William Anders during the Apollo 8 mission, and the first footprints on the moon. And I just love the details of the stamps. I wanted to zoom in on this one. So around the perforations, it's probably a bit fuzzy for you guys. Each stamp had a famous quote from people involved in the missions, including President Kennedy and the astronauts. And each features the map coordinates of a place relating to the theme of each stamp. So, for example, the Project Apollo stamp that you see here displays the coordinates of the Rice Stadium where Kennedy delivered his speech announcing the Apollo program in 1962. And you can see his famous quote here along the left-hand side: "We choose to go to the moon in this decade." So the future of Philately, we've seen that the celebration and commemoration of space achievements, technology, discoveries, they produced an endless amount of stamps, covers, postmarks, and we have some really fantastic events to look forward to. So, you know, Perseverance on Mars, already there. We've got the James Webb Telescope launch, ESA Solar Orbiter. So I think it's a really exciting time for Philately, and there's just a few examples here of recent postmarks that have come out of America celebrating some really exciting events. And how do you get started? Well, research on the internet, look at auction websites such as eBay, Del Camp, join an astronomy space society, get in touch with the collectors. There's loads of books, catalogs, magazines that you can get. So yeah, it's very easy to get started in an expensive hobby. Thank you. I hope there's some people still out there listening.
Absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Absolutely amazing. Yes, that was absolutely fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful stamps, absolutely beautiful stamps, and what a collection you must have now.
I do have a lot, yeah.
Incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Right, I'll let people unmute. So if you have a question for Catrin, please unmute yourself and ask, because some years ago when Philae landed on Comet 67P, they had a stamp for that to commemorate that. And I got one, really excited. I got one through the post, but you could hardly read it. It was so faint. It was horrible.
Oh no. Which country issued that one?
We did.
Oh,
Post
did we?
office.
Oh yes, I think that was part of the
Yeah.
I didn't include it in one of my slides, but yes, I think
Yeah, it was the stamp
yes.
that cancelled across the top, and yeah, it so absolutely fascinating. And I think Mary put in the chat about lots of people going on eBay after this talk.
Oh yeah, I know. I shouldn't have mentioned it because there'll be no stamps left for me and my dad as well. He's a very keen stamp collector, so we've often been bidding each other against each other in the past, but yeah.
I've got a simple question.
Go on, John.
Is there any reason why the Isle of Man have got involved with the stamp issues as against the British Isles as such?
With regard to the Apollo?
Well, or any of the space stamps they've issued?
I really don't know, to be honest. And I think the Isle of Man have actually probably embarrassed the Royal Mail quite badly with their amazing efforts at celebrating astronomical achievements. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
It's just to raise money.
Yes, raise money. Yes.
Yeah,
a good way. I used to work for Harrison's, where we printed all the stamps, a lot of stamps throughout the world, and a lot of countries like Gabon, Ghana, they would create sheets of stamps, not to publish, but more or less for collectors to buy.
Just to
Raise
buy.
funds.
And there are a lot of things that you can buy now. You know, for example, those presentation packs and stuff, and you do. Well, I really like them, but a lot of people just think they're a gimmick, and they're not cheap anymore. You know, a first day cover can cost about £8 or £9, and that's just for the bog standard one that's been postmarked to Edinburgh. But yeah, I do think the Royal Mail need to do better.
I remember a very interesting but boring after a while afternoon when I worked in the post office, being set the task. There's about 3 of us with all these first day covers to put the little stamps on. It's just the right place, and there were hundreds of these things. Yeah.
It's all done by machine now, I imagine.
Yeah.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it would count as one of your sort of Cinderella items that you sort of mentioned on that.
Yeah.
But what about the early stamps from the 1930s that were issued for the Rocket Post?
Oh, the Rocket Post.
So that was basically a German con man, I think, really, who sort of came across here and had the idea of actually giving some demos, one down on the south coast and another one on the Western Isles, of sending mail by rocket.
Okay.
Sort of aluminium tin, fire them off and stuff like that. And they issued stamps for that, but obviously not official Royal Mail ones. It was legal argument that sort of went on. But certainly there was a number, I remember reading there were a number of them survived. So it was certainly on the early rocket side. It was when I was looking at the early rocket pioneers. He'd basically been booted out of Germany, where he'd done some of the early demos for the Nazi Party in the very early 30s. And he came across here to try to make a fast buck by sending the idea across for that. So it's rockets. It's not quite space rockets.
Yeah.
Because they were all pretty much a disaster. But
no, it sounds interesting. I don't think I've heard of that. So something else for me to look into. But it certainly sounds like they would be probably classed as Cinderella stamps. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Quite a lot of them burnt up, but there were, so your first day, your sort of first day issue, so to speak, of them. Lots of burnt envelopes with some of the franking and stuff like that on them.
Blimey.
I'll dig out the link for that for you if you like.
Oh yes, please. Yeah, that'd be really great to read about that. Thank you. I can't believe Dave Galvin's still on the call. I bored you to death the last time with this.
You certainly did not love. I just love the images. As I said last time, the pieces of art when you get that collection of covers, and they're all so neat and colourful, and you look at them and there's so much information in them, and I just love this. It basically you've like lit up the passion that I had when I was a kid.
Thanks.
And you've got some yourself, haven't you, Dave?
I have. If we've got time, I'll just show them. Nowhere near as many as Catrin, but maybe it'll complement some of that you've got. Basically, recent conversation with a friend. We were just chatting about when we got into astronomy, and I just happened to say I used to collect stamps, and one of the regrets I have is giving away my stamp album to a brother-in-law who basically either threw it away, give it away, or lost it somewhere along the line. And that's one of those things in life, isn't it? But in that collection was lots of stamps from Hungary. And I always remember, I can never pronounce it, Magia Posta, and that's the one that I remember. And I was talking to my friend, and he just said, I've got some stamps there, space stamps you can have. I'll dig them out and I'll bring them along. And he did. And I was like, wow. And they're just absolutely beautiful. And they were some of the stamps that I had back then. I had Lunar Card and Lunar and lots of space stuff. So in this collection are some interesting ones. There's one set, and which I'd never seen before, and it commemorates those who died in the space race, as it would have been. So you got Ed White from the Apollo 1, of course Grissom and the other chap, the three of them died in the Apollo 1 fire. So you got Ed White on it. You got Yuri Gagarin, who died in a MiG 15, I think it was, jet fighter, and the other astronaut. When we look at the stamp, I'll remember his name. He died. Basically, his parachute didn't open when he fell to Earth and crashed straight into the ground. Allegedly, his last words were "killed." Oh. And they don't know whether the reference was "you've killed me" or you've killed us or whatever it be. And there's lots of history and detail, as you said before, in the stamps, but you do need a good magnifying glass. And of course, the great thing now is we can scan them and get them on the computer.
Yeah, so, or even just Google image, and
of course, yeah.
There's so much to learn because, I'm still a beginner at this, I'd say, and I can pick up a stamp and be like, oh, well, who's this guy? What's he doing on a stamp? Or, what did he have to do with the space mission? And that takes me back then to what I was saying about the autographs on a cover. A lot of people in America have sent me the most amazing material, stuff that you certainly wouldn't get in the UK, I don't think.
Yeah.
And a lot of these covers have been autographed by people who've worked on missions. And I just think, well, who are they? And you just go on the internet and opens up
trusty Google and off you go.
A rabbit hole of information.
But I'm never too sure that devalues the actual stamp itself, because you're defacing the stamp, but you could also be adding. It depends if you collect it for your own personal interest. It's valuable to you then. But if you want it for a monetary investment, then do you get them to sign the border or the back of the card or whatever?
Yeah. So I don't think it would be so much as defacing the stamp, because it's only ever the envelope I have signed, and the stamps are already cancelled anyway on a first day cover. But I do think not for me, because I would never sell them on. But for some people, yes. David Attenborough signed 2 covers for me recently, and that was amazing. I just posted off some. So the paleontology type covers. I just got his address off the internet, and I said, just put a card in it and said, can you please sign these? And they literally came back within a week. And to me, that's amazing, and I'll never let go of those. But to someone, they might say, oh, well, I'm going to go and sell this now for 100 quid on the internet.
Exactly,
yeah. So
that goes with all autographs as well, I think. But my own personal interest, it would be eclipse stamps. So I've been to about 5 or 6 eclipses now, and on each occasion I've tried to get stamps. Can't always get them. You don't always have time to get them, of course. But I got that set. The first one that you opened with, where it actually, the
American one.
It changes from the face of the moon there during totality, with the heat off your hands. It'll change.
It's fantastic. I love that.
And what a great idea!
Yeah, it's really unusual. Good, isn't it?
I could chat for hours on this. I'm sure other people got questions, but if we do have time, I'll just show some of those if I'm okay to share them.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. Any more questions? No, doesn't sound like it.
That's not lack of interest. That's the fact that you've given so much information.
Because there's so much research.
You've answered every question as you've gone along.
There's so much research gone into that talk. That's amazing.
Thank you. I'm sorry it went on for so long. I think
that's been great.
I kind of get aware halfway through. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still talking. I'm still only halfway through. But like I said, I could literally talk for hours and hours and hours on the subject, and I think I just need to condense it down a little bit now. But
it is difficult though. It can be.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard.
Well, Dave, I've made you a co-host. So if you want,
okay, should we give it a go?
Yeah.
Bear with me and let's see how this works out. Obviously, we don't need no video, so we don't need sound. Hopefully, you can see them.
Oh yes, yeah.
So basically, these are just taken with the phone, the camera on the phone, and the lid on the table there. But I can zoom into them. So these are all Hungary, as I said. A friend said, "Oh yeah, there's a couple of there you can have," and I was like, "Wow!" I mean, there's Apollo 11. So I'd never seen this one before, and the astronauts there. Obviously, it's got to be Armstrong and Aldrin, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But isn't it beautiful? It losing a little bit of colour, of course. The photograph doesn't show it at its best. Apollo 12.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What else we got?
Yeah.
There's some missions I've got to get to fill the gaps now. Apollo 13.
That's a good one, isn't it? Because it kind of tells you the story from, well, I'm assuming from launch to landing.
That's right, yeah. Using the lunar module to get back home.
Yeah.
Obviously went round the back of the moon.
Yeah.
Circumnavigate the moon, and then heading back to Earth. Parachutes opened. I remember the moment those parachutes opened, and my heart was beating fast as a young lad. And when they splashed down, it was like, wow. And I get quite emotional even watching the Apollo 13 film with Tom Hanks in. What else we got? We got Apollo 16. I'd love to get Apollo 15. I spent some time with I can't remember his name now.
Al Warden.
Al Warden. Spent some time a weekend with Al Warden.
Oh,
Look, what a time that was.
Do you know what? I met him a few years ago.
Yeah.
And obviously, I knew about the Apollo 15 scandal, and I didn't take a cover along with me because I was like, "Is he going to tell me to F off?" I don't know.
Well, it's a touchy subject because it was also the way it happened. And if you obviously read his book, he was sacked basically, and he never flew again. And it was the way NASA, it was the way they didn't like it. They were going to teach him a lesson, and anyone else for that matter. But other astronauts took stuff up there. They just didn't take lots of stamps to be sold afterwards.
Yeah, but, I think the problem was they didn't declare it, did they? That's
a bit naughty, but what the heck? This one, as you say, you get stamps, and you think, what the heck's that one about? And I didn't know what this one was. I looked it up, and bear in mind, it's Hungary. Magyar Posta is Hungary, and this is I've written down on my little piece of paper here, Soyuz 36, and it's I can't pronounce the names, Bertalan and Valery Kubazov. I'm going to guess at that, but basically this chappie here, Kubazov, he was the first Hungarian to go into space on board Salyut 6, which was the space station at the time. So before Mir, obviously before all the other, the space stations that we have now, that was one of the early ones. So, but yeah, basically the first Hungarian in space, and that was to commemorate that, 1980. Get over there a little bit. There we go. And again, Luna 16, 1970. So, I mean, look at that lovely little probe there.
Yeah.
And then obviously it landed back. They brought the data back to Earth again, I think. But again, that's the mission, isn't it? As you said. So a nice little story there. And what we got at the bottom here? So telecommunications satellites, a couple in the set there, Zonda, and what we also got? Molyneux. What that one is, Syncom 3. Again, these are all you could read up on these and find out what they're all about.
Yeah,
1965
absolutely.
there.
And I think that's the beauty of stamps,
Yeah.
And a lot of people just poo-poo stamps as boring. It's something that older generation do, and I just don't think. And this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kind of educate people, and you can learn so much about astronomy and space through.
So there's Lunicod was basically on the moon. It was a roving caravan. It always looked like the old traditional gypsy caravan, and it was roving around the moon when the Apollo astronauts were on the moon as well. 1970, that one. So probably Apollo 12, I should guess on that. But as the astronauts are doing their work, this thing's roving around somewhere else on the moon.
They're fantastic. They're in really good condition as well. They're all mint stamps.
They are, yeah. And then just this one over. Where we get over here. So this is the one I was saying. It's obviously commemorating the deaths of Ed White, Apollo 1. Icarus and Daedalus flew too close to the sun and fell to the Earth. So that's an interesting one in itself. And then Gagarin, who died, and Komarov, he's the one who died in the capsule. The parachute never opened. And apparently very upset as the audio went, apparently.
One of the most horrific stamps I've ever seen. I can't remember who issued which country it was from, but it was the Soyuz 11 disaster, when they lost
depressurized. That was the other death.
Yeah, the country for some reason that issued the stamp thought it was a good idea to illustrate the 3 corpses on a stamp.
Really?
Yeah, it's really quite horrific and creepy. It's disgusting.
That's strange,
I'll have to send you a photograph. Yeah,
it'd be interesting. Not too sure about this one. I'm trying to guess at the translations here. Pro genre humano, maybe, I don't know, first human or something. I don't know. Anyone? Well, I have to guess. Scientist, maybe the first scientist. But again, I'd have to look up the mission and the names. Soyuz 11. Salyut. There you go. space station as well. And obviously getting this to the end now, so I'll just move quickly. I say, you know, I can look at, I've never seen these magnified so much. Obviously, we're looking at Mars, Schiaparelli, Mariner 9. Looks like anyone want to guess the telescope with the?
That looks like
looks like Palomar or something like that. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, the probe going to Mars there, and one or two others, and looks like something landed on Mars.
Oh yeah.
But again, I'll have to have a look at them properly. And then
amazing.
Now that one, I only just noticed looking at them before. They're all exactly the same, aren't they? They're unused,
yeah,
unfranked,
all the same currency,
and all the same. Yeah, 1969. Yeah. So basically, that's that. I'll move through these quick. This is just what we just looked at. So I didn't take pictures of them all, but you know they are beautiful. As I say, they're like pieces of art.
Yeah,
that one, Liverpool Astronomical Society, we I'm not sure how we got this involved with it, but we were asked if we'd like to do a, you know, as if what do you call it? Is it franking the stamps or something?
Cancelling
them, yeah. So we had this done at the observatory where they became official then, I think. So our observatory at Cronton, just outside Liverpool, and our stamp. So that was a nice limited edition, I think we had on that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a personal favourite, of course.
Oh, actually, I think
Lee's made a comment in the chat saying he's not coming to these talks again because more money coming out of his bank account.
It just costs money, doesn't it? But I mean, look at that! Isn't that beautiful as a set, as a collection?
Yeah,
you know?
And that's a presentation pack, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Now this one, I'm a little bit biased, obviously, being from Liverpool. John Lennon, one of my heroes, he's a star. That obviously for me. And I was in Gibraltar, and we popped in the post office because it's like going into old Britain with the telephone boxes and telephone, the pillar boxes and that. And I went in the post office, and this was, these were able to, for ordering. John and Yoko, they got married, Gibraltar, and then if you ever listen to the song Ballad of John and Yoko, it tells you all about it. And I just thought, got to have it. And it was 2008. There we go. June 2008, I bought them. Cool. And I just think they're beautiful.
Yeah, I love stamps like that. So I'd probably call that a miniature sheet where the image is actually outside of the stamp as well. It kind of goes outside.
But that's something I will never cut up or stick on. Use
on a Christmas card.
So, I mean, that's just some I've got. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'll never do that now. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of others going back up, the old space stuff and the collections as you've done yourself. But then you realise when I stopped collecting back in the late 70s, and all those stamps that have come out since, and I've missed them. I've got the Halley Comet set, the Greenwich set, and so on and so on.
You can always kind of revisit it. There's the Stanley Gibbons catalogues, although they are quite expensive. But there's amazing websites you can go on now. I think it's called Colnect. There's Delcamp. You can type in a theme, a country, and it just provides a good reference then, to...
Yeah. I suppose the idea is you stick to a theme and keep with it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, this is like I said at the beginning. I think when you start out, you do kind of inundated with thousands of stamps. You're like, oh well, what do I like? And I think as time goes on, then you think, well, actually, I'm not interested in the images. I just want to look at the back of the stamp, the gum, the ink. But that just comes.
As is.
Any chance?
Fascinating. Yeah.
Any chance you send some links to those, Catrin? I'll put them on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah. And could I thank you again, Catrin? Absolutely amazing. I just love it. I really do.
Thanks,
and I have heard it before, but then I've heard Peter Williams Hawkwind to Hawkwind 1,000 times, and I still tap my foot and sing along to the songs, and I still enthralled by these stamps as well. So keep on doing what you're doing, and spread the word as always.
I shall. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but don't go to eBay. Let me get there first.
Yeah.
Roger's still here. He's probably on there already. He's beaten.
Yeah. What's your eBay name? So I know if I'm bidding against you or not.
Right, over and out. Back to yourselves. Thank you very much.
Catrin, before we all disappear. No.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, and please. I put my email address. I'm on Facebook, so if you have any feedback you'd like to give me, it was my third talk, so I'm good or bad, please let me know.
No, fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Really
Well, thank you
fascinating,
so much.
and some wonderful stamps there.
Thank you
Excellent.
very
Yeah, I
much.
agree. Well done.
Appreciate
Well
it.
done.
Okay,
great
thanks so much. Fantastic. Right, thanks everybody else for coming
Thanks
in
for having
and
Thank
being
you.
an audience for Catrin. And, yeah, we'll see you all in, is it a couple of weeks' time? When we got Paul Money to introduce us.
Is he any good?
I don't know. Have you heard him before? No, have you not heard him before?
He's average,
Like,
you know.
Brilliant. Okay, see you in a couple of weeks' time, and you know what I'm going to say?
Thank you.
Keep well
Bye.
and keep looking up. Thanks, Catrin. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.